There's a quiet migration happening, one that's gone mostly unnoticed by the mainstream media and the general public. Top American doctors, after decades at the pinnacle of Western medicine, are skipping the golf courses of Florida and heading to Manila, a city that offers them a new chapter in life. It's not just about saving money, although the cost of living is significantly lower here, allowing their retirement savings to stretch further. They're searching for something rare, a sense of meaning and connection that's missing from the polished retirement communities back home, where life can often feel isolated and disconnected. This trend began as whispers among medical circles, stories of cardiologists, surgeons, and internists choosing the Philippines over the American dream, seeking a more fulfilling and integrated lifestyle. The numbers are small but growing, challenging our traditional ideas of what retirement should be, and redefining the concept of a golden age. These doctors aren't running from failure or lack of planning. They are making a conscious choice to embrace a new way of living. They could live anywhere, but they're drawn to a place where life is raw, real, and community matters deeply, offering a sense of belonging. Manila, with its chaos and imperfections, offers something Florida can't, a culture that reveres its elders and weaves them into daily life, making them feel valued and respected. For doctors used to being respected, this reverence is invaluable, providing them with a renewed sense of purpose and identity. They're seen not as old, but as wise, with their experience and knowledge being actively sought after and appreciated. In the US, retirement can feel like a slide into irrelevance. Elders respected in theory but often isolated in practice, left to navigate their later years alone. The doctors choosing Manila are rejecting that script, opting instead for a life where they can continue to contribute and be part of a vibrant community. They want to matter, to be embraced, to be needed, and to find a place where their presence makes a difference. Here, their skills and wisdom are valued, not shelved, allowing them to continue their passion for medicine and mentorship. They're not looking for pampering, they're looking for purpose, a reason to get up each morning and engage with the world around them. It's a quiet revolution, a search for a better way to grow old, one that is filled with meaning, connection, and joy. And it's changing what retirement can mean, offering a new vision of aging that is vibrant, active, and deeply fulfilling. Dr. Richard Samuels, a Harvard-trained internist, dedicated 4 decades of his life to medicine in Boston, caring for thousands of patients and mentoring young doctors. His days were filled with purpose, challenge, and the deep satisfaction that comes from making a difference. As retirement approached, he and his wife Sarah dreamed of a classic Florida escape: sunshine, relaxation, and time to finally enjoy each other's company after years of busy schedules. They moved to Boca Raton, joined exclusive clubs, played golf, and soaked up the sun. On the surface, it was everything they had planned for, but beneath the surface, something was missing. Conversations at social gatherings felt shallow, friendships seemed transactional, and the deep sense of purpose that had always driven Richard slowly faded away. Their new life, though comfortable and safe, began to feel like a waiting room, pleasant but strangely isolating, as if they were simply passing time rather than truly living. Everything around them was perfect, yet a profound loneliness crept in, making each day feel emptier than the last. Then, a spontaneous visit to see Sarah's cousin in Manila changed the course of their lives in ways they never expected. They arrived expecting chaos and culture shock, but instead discovered a vibrant, interconnected community where people genuinely cared for one another. Families lived together across generations, neighbors shared meals and laughter, and acts of kindness were a natural part of daily life. The warmth and connection they felt in Manila stood in stark contrast to the manicured, yet emotionally distant life they had left behind in Florida. What was meant to be a short vacation soon felt like a true homecoming, awakening a sense of belonging they hadn't felt in years. They realized what they'd been missing all along: real community, genuine friendships, and a renewed sense of purpose through helping others. The decision to stay in Manila was no longer about comfort or luxury, but about finding a place where they truly belonged and could make a difference. In Manila, they weren't just passing time, they were living fully, surrounded by warmth, laughter, and meaning. And for Richard and Sarah, that changed everything. Manila was overwhelming at first. Heat, traffic, crowds. Richard and Sarah wondered if they'd made a mistake, but small acts of kindness changed their minds. Strangers helped Sarah in a market, a student guided them through the city, refusing payment. Respect for elders was everywhere. Staff called them sir and ma'am, with genuine deference. When Richard mentioned he was a retired doctor, he was met with awe and honor. In Florida, he was just another retiree. In Manila, he was Doc, a title that meant something. The city's warmth broke down their emotional walls. Neighbors brought gifts, invited them to gatherings, and welcomed them as participants, not outsiders. They were valued for their presence, not their wealth. The soul of Manila wasn't in its landmarks, but in its people. Here, they found connection and respect that had been missing for years. They weren't just living in Manila, they were part of it. And that made all the difference. Richard and Sarah's transformation didn't come from grand gestures or dramatic changes, but from the accumulation of small, everyday moments that quietly reshaped their lives in ways they never expected. At a lively neighborhood potluck, a Filipino grandmother approached Richard seeking advice about her grandson's persistent rash. It was a simple question, but it carried trust and hope. Richard's gentle reassurance and practical advice brought her visible relief and deep gratitude, a connection formed in just a few words. In that moment, Richard felt a sense of purpose return. His knowledge and experience were not just acknowledged, but truly valued. He realized his presence could make a real difference in someone's life. Back in Florida, such advice might have been brushed aside or even unwelcome. Here in Manila, it was natural, even expected, to share wisdom and help one another. Richard's identity as a healer was not something to be retired or forgotten. It was honored, respected, and woven into the community's daily life. For Sarah, joining the local women in the community garden opened new doors. She found herself learning, laughing, and growing alongside her neighbors. They exchanged plants, shared stories from their lives, and filled the air with laughter, building bonds that went beyond language or background. Conversations here weren't about money, possessions, or social status. Instead, they revolved around family, memories, and the simple joys of daily life. Sarah became both a student and a friend, valued not for what she owned but for her kindness, her curiosity, and her willingness to connect. Community here was organic and heartfelt. When Sarah was unwell, neighbors brought her soup, saved her favorite bread, and checked in on her, sharing both their daily joys and their struggles. These small, thoughtful acts wove Richard and Sarah into the very fabric of the neighborhood, making them feel truly at home. In Manila, belonging wasn't something you scheduled or planned. It was something you lived day by day, through genuine interactions and shared experiences. The connections they found were real, sturdy, and deeply fulfilling, built on trust, kindness, and mutual respect. This was the community Richard and Sarah had been searching for all along, a place where small moments created profound, lasting connections. Richard and Sarah soon met other retired American doctors in Manila, like Dr. Eleanor Vance reading to children and Dr. Ben Carter mentoring young medical students. Together they formed a new kind of community, not practicing medicine, but still healing. Their gatherings were lively, focused on present contributions, not past glories. They shared breakthroughs, mentored, and built new lives rich with meaning. In the US, they'd felt irrelevant. In Manila, their wisdom was needed and respected. They became community elders, not just retired doctors. By teaching and mentoring, they turned their experience into a public good. They found spiritual healing in giving back. In helping others, they healed themselves. Retirement became a new beginning, not an end. The contrast between Florida and Manila was stark. Florida offered comfort, order, and ease, but also isolation and a sense of irrelevance. In a world without need, it was hard to feel necessary. Manila was messy, unpredictable, and full of daily challenges. But within the chaos, people relied on each other, forging deep community bonds. Aging in the US often means segregation. In the Philippines, elders are the heart of the family. Richard and Sarah became Lolo and Lola, terms of respect and affection. Their value shifted from wealth to wisdom, from consumer to elder. They traded sterile comfort for soulful messiness. The choice wasn't about good or bad places, but about meaning. They chose purpose over perfection. In Manila, they found a life that nourished their souls, and that made all the difference. Adjusting to Manila wasn't easy. Traffic, heat, and bureaucracy tested their patience. They missed the efficiency and familiarity of home. Navigating local systems required humility and flexibility. Cultural differences, like Filipino time and indirect communication, took getting used to. But these challenges were outweighed by the rewards: genuine respect, warmth, and connection. They learned to laugh at the chaos and see imperfection as part of the city's charm. A perfect life, they realized, isn't always meaningful. The city's flaws created space for real connection and purpose. The struggle made the rewards sweeter. The chance to be useful again was the greatest gift of their new life. Richard volunteered at a local clinic, mentoring young doctors and offering decades of wisdom. His presence encouraged the staff and reignited his passion for medicine, without the old pressures. Sarah started informal health classes for neighborhood women, teaching first aid and nutrition. She became Tita Sarah, a trusted source of advice and comfort. Their service wasn't formal volunteering, it was woven into daily life. Checking a neighbor's blood pressure, listening to worries, sharing knowledge. These acts built trust and belonging. The more they gave, the more they received in gratitude and respect. They were no longer passive retirees but active, valued members of their community. Retirement became a continuation of their life's work. They found dignity not in being served but in serving others. Richard and Sarah's story isn't about the Philippines versus Florida, it's about what we seek in our final years. The Western retirement ideal promises leisure, but often overlooks our need to be needed. Manila offers a powerful alternative. Elders at the heart of family and community, not isolated on the sidelines. Here, retired doctors become respected elders, their wisdom a living asset. Home became a place of connection, not just comfort. The cure for loneliness wasn't luxury, but belonging. They traded polished surfaces for messy, meaningful engagement. The lesson is universal. As we live longer, purpose matters more than comfort. The greatest healing they found was for themselves, woven into the lives of others, sharing wisdom and building meaning. In the end, a life of value is built not on what we have, but on what we give.